enough progress has happened with us being 2/3 of the way through this narrative. I know this sounds really, really like suspect and kind of, you know, kinky, but this is the first one where I thought I could give this 5 stars. After a year and a half in the making, we are finally able to answer the question, who is the best recommender on Booktube? Welcome to Battle of the Booktuber Championship Round. This is a competition hosted by Danni Dabbles. Myself and 4 other competitors are going to be vlogging all month throughout July, and by the end, we will have someone going home with the crown. It's finally time to meet our champions, the winners of Battle of the Booktuber from 2024. Leandra the TBR0, me, won round 1. Then in round 2, we had Kirsten, the reading nymph, coming home with the prize. In round 3, Victoria Masters ended up winning her round. And then finally, rounding off the competition, we had Samantha Donovan winning round 4. But the audience also voted on a wild card, so Rainy Blue Reads is certainly going to be adding a little bit of spice to this competitive championship round. Who will take the crown? Time will tell. And since it's the 5th week of this competition, you might be asking, wait, Leandra, there are 5 competitors. You have to read 1 vlog per competitor. How are you getting this 5th one? What is going on? Well, we have our battle recs to consider. This time around for the championship round, we have a really extra bonus thanks to Danni, where we basically have this opportunity to get a few extra points ahead of our competitors. Long story short, Kirsten, Rainy, Victoria, and Sam each had to send me a title. I got a list of 4 books then, and what I had to do was choose the 2 I wanted to read the most. That basically gives an edge to 2 of my competitors, while the others are just kind of hoping that their original recommendations worked out during their vlogs. About 6 months ago at this point, each of us sent in a video to our Battle of the Booktuber Discord to reveal what 2 books we would be reading during the Battle Recs vlogs, and so I'm going to take it back to past Leandra so she can reveal to you as well. Hey friends, I am officially revealing the 2 battle recs that I'm going to be reading for the championship round of Battle of the Booktuber. So the 4 titles I was given, those include A Marvelous Light by Freya Marsk, A Morbid Taste for Bones by Ellis Peters, Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater, and We Three Queens by Rhys Bowen. What I think is really fascinating, before I reveal the 2 books, is that all of them are historical in some way. There are 2 historical mysteries, the Ellis Peters and the Rhys Bowen titles, and then we also have Half a Soul, which is like historical romance, but in a fantasy world where there are fairies, and then I'm pretty sure A Marvelous Light is also historical fantasy with some romance, maybe a bit of mystery, but I'm pretty sure it's not a true genre blend. So I found that very fascinating. With that said, I think my biggest reveal is that I don't have a choice. I didn't get to choose my battle recs, which is kind of sad, and that's because 2 of those books are immediately ones I can't read. So let's go through it. A Marvelous Light by Freya Marsk. This book I can read. It's a book I haven't read before. So if you recommended this, good job. I have to read this book. If you ended up recommending A Morbid Taste for Bones by Ellis Peters, I also will be reading this book because I've never read anything by Ellis Peters, even though I've really been meaning to. So good job to the person who recommended that book, because that one was going to be the one I choose anyway. And then we get to the 2 titles I can't read. So Half a Soul and the other book, We Three Queens, are 2 titles I had to eliminate when I received my preliminary list of titles that we had to look through, DNFs, finished books, currently reading, whatever the case is. With Half a Soul, I had just started that book the day before. I think it was the 28th. I was laying in bed. I couldn't focus on anything. I had access to the audio because this was also a purchased read from 2024, and I had the goal of reading every single book I bought in 2024, hence why I was on that list for Goodreads. And yeah, if we had gone through our recs and everything 24 hours earlier, I wouldn't have started that book. So that's quite sad. And then with We Three Queens, I have read a book within that series already, so that means I can't read this. It's part of the Her Royal Spina series. I had read one of the Christmas mysteries within that collection. I hadn't read the first one, so I'm assuming this person just thought I hadn't, read any of them. And I actually, kudos to you, because you ended up recommending number 18 in the series, so you were taking a bit of a chance, but you showed that you knew mysteries. If I had had a choice, I will say I probably would have chosen Half a Soul and A Morbid Taste for Bones. Those are probably going to be the 2 books I immediately chose, but the choice was taken from me, friends. So it's a sad day. Would I have given these two people different advice as far as using your exchange tickets? I mean, priorities, right? You might have had to use them on other competitors. But I do think that it was probably, I don't know. I just think it was probably a wrong choice, especially if you were the people who used your exchange tickets within my final picks for mystery or sci-fi. There were some things I would have changed. So that's all I'll say. But unfortunately, I was not given a choice. I simply have to read the 2 battle wrecks that are left. And congratulations to those competitors, because you guys just got easy points. So, all right, that's it. Good luck, everybody. Yeah, that's right. I didn't actually get to choose the books that I wanted to read, but that's okay. The way that this is going to work is I'm going to start off with A Marvelous Light by Freya Marske. So that's going to be the first book you see from me, and then obviously the second book is going to be A Morbid Taste for Bones. Stick around if you want to see which books I actually enjoyed, if I enjoyed either of them, and feel free to provide a guess of who you think recommended each title to me. All right, let's check out past Leandra and see what she thought about her first experience with Freya Marske. All right, it is time for me to start discussing the first of my 2 battle wrecks for this competition. I am a third of the way through A Marvelous Light by Freya Marske, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm a bit pleasantly surprised. And it's not that I thought this would be a bad book. I didn't expect to go into this book hating it. I do think that there was some influence that I was a bit bitter, a bit sad about my own situation, having a bit of a pity party, because I'm pretty sure I was the only competitor who didn't get to choose their battle wrecks. It's my own fault. You know, I definitely blame myself for not having a more transparent, review site profile. But I just recall looking at my list of 4 and being like, rats, I don't get to choose anything, but that's okay, that's okay. With this title, it's been on my radar for quite some time. A Marvelous Light is a book that I have itched to try multiple times, but I never pulled the trigger because I love the idea of it being historical. I think it's like an alternate Edwardian society, which I also really love the idea of. There's fantasy mixed with a mystery, but you know what made me hesitate is the romance. I love the fact that it is a queer romance. I'm totally for that, especially in historical settings. When an author can do that right and really highlight the stuff that we love about historical settings, whether it's Regency, Edwardian, Victorian, I'm here for it. But a lot of times authors decide to kind of stick to the status quo and only provide, straight romances, and those are also fine. So I really like that idea, but if there's too much of a percentage of romance, that's when I start to just get tired. I don't know what else to say. I get tired of the fact that we are just harping on this romance and these characters' feelings, and I'm just thinking, get together already. And then when they're together, I get annoyed that there's a third act breakup. It's a whole thing. I have a very complicated, or should we say uncomplicated, relationship with romances in which I 99% of the time don't like them. So that's kind of what's playing against this recommender, whoever it is. I might as well say now, if I haven't already, I think it's Kirsten. I'm like pretty sure that it's Kirsten the Reading Nymph, because she absolutely loves Freya Marske to death. I know that she's read quite a few books by Marske, and at this point, there's even a book she's anticipating, I think, that she was talking about that's coming out this year. So that's why I feel really confident that it's Kirsten, even though one of the other recommendations, Half a Soul, I know she's read that as well, I think. And so it's a bit of a toss-up, but if anyone's going to recommend me Freya Marske, I think it's Kirsten. But anyways, let's actually get into my thoughts about this narrative, what's happened so far. Because we're a third of the way, I thought we'd be a bit further as far as the plot, the action. I'm not mad. I just don't really know when the action is going to come. We ended up opening with this really intense scene that I was thinking, okay, whoever recommended this book to me, they are playing the game, or whatever the phrase is. And that's because we have this character who is honestly under attack. He has been captured and he's screaming because these 3 characters are torturing him in the middle of a park in London. And just across the way, people are picnicking, strolling, enjoying the sunshine. No one's noticing that this man is being tortured in front of them. And that's when you realize that a magic cloak has basically been placed over them, a little bubble, so that no one else notices that this is happening as they magically attack and try to gain information from this man saying, where's the contract? Where is it? However, this guy also can't tell them anything because unfortunately there's been some type of spell, or I don't fully know what it is, but it's bound his words, so he cannot provide them with the information they need to locate the item that they're looking for. His tongue is swollen, and so he does gestures and ends up kind of giving context clues to help them discover where it might be, and it's in his office. And immediately the characters think, okay, we got everything we can from him, let's wrap this up. And they kill him. They kill him in the first chapter. And now we fast forward to the person who has taken this man's position, and that is Robin, one of our love interests. He has no idea what he's gotten into. This has been a clerical error, and now he is the parliamentary liaison between the, regular world, non-magical world, and a secret magical society. He is way in over his head, and then these characters end up finding him, the bad guys. They're asking him, demanding him where the contract is, where is it hidden. He has no idea what's going on. Now he's cursed. And so he is having the worst week ever, or however long it's taking. Meanwhile, there is this ongoing romance with Edwin, a magician, who is definitely needing some self-confidence. He has had a difficult time with his family. He is the weakest magician, or the least skilled as far as having natural abilities, but he's the most well educated. He is so invested in this. He's always fun at the library. That's where his comfort zone is. But obviously he also feels like an outsider in his own home, in his own community of magicians, feeling as though he needs to prove himself. There's a really bad relationship with his older brother who bullied him, and it forced him to feel as though he needed to isolate himself further and not have friends, not bring them to the house. It's a whole thing. But Edwin, discovering Robin's position, even though they get off on the wrong foot immediately, decides to help him, especially because, I don't know, I'm wondering if Edwin knows something about this contract or not. That's, I'm assuming, is what the mystery is. What is this object, and who are these people trying to get it? Why is it important? And we definitely have a romance going on. They're very sweet. They're very cute. Both of them are a little bit shy, uncertain of each other. You're getting the looks, the bashfulness, the touches. And now we're just kind of hanging out at Edwin's home, where he has all of this, knowledge that he can sift through, a big library. He can take time to research. And Robin's just trying to buy time and hopefully survive the curse, because it's getting ever worse. So that is tense. We have the tension there too. I'm just wondering, when are we going to get further into this mystery? So that's the only thing I'm feeling. But honestly, whoever recommended this to me, you're guaranteed, in my opinion, to probably get 4-star range. It could be a 5 if I'm blown away, which is crazy because I didn't expect that, but I'm having a good time. I'm also on sprints with a friend right now. Shout out to Brittany Loves Reading, and I gotta get back to it. So this is a very quick update. And also thank you so much to Beatrice from Beatrice's Book Nook, who is also a competitor last year in 2024. She's buddy reading this with me, and we're having a really good time. I need to update her as well. So, okay, I gotta go, but I'll let you all know how I feel once I get further into this book. I am 2/3 of the way through A Marvelous Light, so here is your second update before I finish the book. My last update was a little bit scattered. I'm pretty sure I was on a time crunch trying to get back on screen during sprints, so hopefully I can be a bit more coherent and fill in any gaps that I may have left in my wake. We have the classic romance setup where we do get 2 different POVs, Edwin and Robin. I think that it provides a really great dynamic for this narrative in particular, just because the 2 men are coming from completely different perspectives and completely different personalities. Robin is adventurous, he's a bit spontaneous, kind of allows himself to go with the flow and enjoy life, but he's also non-magical. So he is very overwhelmed at the moment, trying to understand how his world has changed, at least as far as his own view of it. He has so many questions. Obviously, he's dealing with the curse that is growing ever closer to his heart and will likely kill him if they don't lift it sooner rather than later. Then we have Edwin's POV, who is far more analytical. He's the bookworm, and he wants to know the ins and outs of a situation before he ever takes a step forward. So obviously, Robin is loosening him up a little bit, whereas he's making Robin have to pause and think a bit more critically before rushing into a situation. So they are complementing each other in that way. And obviously Edwin's a magician, so he knows magic, he's grown up with magic, and he is guiding Robin through this process. They, of course, have progressed in their romance. They initially became friends, understanding each other, gaining trust, being a bit more vulnerable than they've ever been before, which has been lovely. And now we have gotten to be physically intimate. There have been 2 to 3 open door scenes. So if you're someone who isn't as, enamored by the idea of reading a scene like that on page, maybe skip this narrative because it does go in depth and it has happened at least 2 times to my memory. And while these 2 characters are clearly into each other, clearly becoming physically intimate, and there's the suggestion of a happily ever after, no. It's not that simple because there are still so many more obstacles in their way. Not only a curse that may kill Robin if they don't lift it soon enough, but also this question of, after all of this ends up blowing over, Robin could potentially forget magic exists. That is an option for him, and Edwin has to come to grips with, what if that happens? Am I okay with losing this person because I'm finally comfortable with them and I've never really experienced this before him? But with that said, I would argue that not enough progress has happened with us being 2/3 of the way through this narrative. We pretty much have only been focusing on the romance. I'm being a bit dramatic. Not only, but mostly on the romance, which is fine if you're a big romance reader. But for me, I just keep kind of wondering what's happening next. Like, when are we going to move forward? Can we please get on with the other plots that are going on in this narrative? And I don't know, I'm just not the type of reader who is going to be captivated by a romance at the forefront. I just want us to be focusing on other things because I think there are other things that are far more important in my opinion. And I feel badly about that because I do think that this is a fun narrative. I'm finding it to be a great palate cleanser, but at the same time, because I'm viewing it as more of a fantasy romance than anything else, I am not gravitating towards it. I'm juggling a few books at the moment and I keep having to tell myself, Leandra, don't forget, you're reading this book, you need to finish it. And so that has been a little bit of a struggle. And obviously that's an indicator that I'm not completely enamored with this book. And I'm not surprised, but I am kind of feeling a roller coaster of up and downs because when I entered this book, I was thinking, this is probably going to be an okay book. I had it on my radar, but I never really felt motivated to read it because I worried the romance was more important than the mystery element. And there is some puzzling, there's some problem solving, but yeah, this is pretty much what I expected. But then that opening chapter, the guy who was murdered in broad daylight, poor Reggie, am I right? I was captivated by that and I got really, really excited. And then I realized they really weren't going to be investigating who killed Reggie. And they are figuring things out, but it's not as mystery as I was thinking it would be. It's my fault. I knew this was going to be more of a romance than anything else, but there we are. With that said, because I see the light at the end of the tunnel, I can see myself finishing this book pretty soon because I've decided that I will be focusing on it, and you probably will hear from me in just a few days because I've got a lot of cleaning I want to do, a lot of errands as it's getting warmer outside, and so hopefully I can add this to my finished books for Battle of the Booktuber and I can provide you with my overall thoughts of how this whole narrative is going to end. So yeah, I'll see you guys soon. The lighting isn't as ideal as I would like it, but you know what? We're going to do what we need to do. I did end up finishing A Marvelous Life by Freya Marsk, and I feel badly because this book just became less and less interesting for me the longer I was reading it. So Edwin and Robin, they are great characters. Clearly they deserve each other. Clearly they complement each other, and people who are romance readers would eat that up. For me, their back and forth started feeling repetitive. I was just not a fan of the third act breakup, the conflict being the romance when we have bigger fish to fry. There were more important things happening in this book than their romance, in my opinion. And so when we kept ever more focusing on the romance at hand, I was just checking out. I was skimming. Honestly, if this wasn't for the competition, I would have DNF'd this book. So I'm so sorry to whichever booktuber ended up recommending this battle rec to me, but it just was not what I wanted, and I'm really disappointed too because honestly, that first third, I was intrigued. I said in my update that this could be a 4-star. So there was hope. It's just that as we got further, this ended up kind of falling into the pattern that every romance falls into for like my own experience. And it's that I just get bored. I don't end up caring about the couple as much as I know we're supposed to, and I don't really even remember how the book ends. And you know what? It just stinks, because obviously someone recommended this book to me thinking that it could be a contender, that I would have chosen this out of the 4 books given to me. And I understand, I like historical, I am here for a romantic subplot, and there have been, you know, suggestions that it is a mystery, and I think that's a stretch. I would not say that this is a mystery. I would say that there is a mystery subplot, kind of, but also the fantasy wasn't as delved into as I would like. So there just were some things that just didn't really work. And like I said, in another world, I would have DNF'd this book, but I'm also going to not tell you my rating until the end, just like I've done every single time. So on that note, that's a bit ominous, let's end up moving on to my next battle wreck, which is A Morbid Taste for Bones by Ellis Peters. This is a historical mystery, and it's one that I really should have read a long, long time ago. I'm kind of embarrassed that I haven't read it up until now, and you know what made me hesitant? I was wondering if it was too historical, if we were going too far back, because really my own comfort area, my favorite parts of historical mystery or historical settings in general, it could be fantasy, it could be alternate history like steampunk, it doesn't really matter. I really like a historical setting. Usually I go as far back as the Regency era, and I won't delve much further. So there's a chance that I would really vibe with this book. It's just that it's like medieval. I'm pretty sure it's like quite far back, and that just made me uncertain on how I'd feel about it if I was a monk of all things. So yeah, just know that on paper it really should be a book for me, but the time period might not actually be the sweet spot that I prefer when I'm reading historical narratives. One way to find out, let's go to Past Leandra. I have officially started the second of 2 battle wrecks for this competition, A Morbid Taste for Bones by Ellis Peters. And I'm not gonna lie, this was one of my most highly anticipated books on the grand list originally given to us by Danni. I was hoping 2 different things. Either that it was gonna be in the #1 position for one of my mystery categories, or that it was gonna be a battle wreck. And so I was very lucky that it was just an easy decision, and really, again, the decision was taken away from me, but I'm really looking forward to this book, and I'm already a third of the way through. So this is the first in a historical mystery series following Brother Cadfael. It's set in the medieval times, and I just am really enjoying it. I'm only 4 chapters in, but it's a pretty short narrative, which isn't surprising, and I am already understanding why so many people are hyped about this mystery series in the mystery community. I've never read anything by Ellis Peters before, but I'm already in love with Brother Cadfael. I find him to have a really good head on his shoulders. I really like his perspective. He's thoughtful, he's observant, which we love to see in a detective, and I'm just appreciating how calm and relaxed the scenery is. We have descriptions of the garden, because when he became a monk, that became one of his major passions. He just wants to work with the vegetables. He just wants to prune and do whatever you do as a gardener, because I'm not someone who even owns 1 plant in my apartment, but I'm here for the aesthetic. And he just seems to kind of be able to keep the peace. He knows the different perspectives from other brothers, other monks within his community. And the major conflict that is going on actually begins with a journey. So he and the other monks are in need of a saint, or at least it seems like kind of a trendy thing. The other types of communities around them, other monks, other monasteries, have a saint to kind of call their own, and this one doesn't. And so Prior Robert, one of the other men in this community, decides to take one of those from Wales, because they're currently in England, and they're like, well, there's a bunch of unclaimed saints in Wales, so just go over there, take one, and then we have what everybody else has. Perfect. Obviously, that sounds pretty shady, and Brother Cadfael would agree with you. So he finds a way to join the group of men who are going to be on these travels making their way to Wales. And as a Welshman, he has an in because he speaks Welsh, and that's pretty much how he sells himself, saying, you're gonna need a translator, so how about I join and also just try to keep the peace and see what Prior Robert is going to do, what lengths he's willing to do to actually gain this Saint Winifred into their monastery. And so they travel to Wales, they arrive at the small village, and while they're welcomed, there is some trepidation. We have a few characters introduced, like Father Hugh. We also have Richard, who ends up becoming our murder victim, but I'm getting ahead of myself. What ends up happening is just, of course, conflict, because the way that Prior Robert places himself in this position, saying, we have a right to your saint, and we're actually doing everyone a favor, including the saint a favor, to just bring her to our country so that we can actually take care of her the way you haven't. And so everyone takes affront from this. Richard takes affront from this. And so he pushes back, saying, I'm going to advise everyone to vote against this idea, and so that we keep Saint Winifred where she should be, because when she was living, she spoke Welsh. Why would we remove her from her culture, her history, from her language? It just doesn't make any sense. And there ends up being this really uncomfortable discussion after the meeting where the monks, including Prior Robert, speak with Richard one-on-one. And Prior Robert makes a big oopsie when he ends up offering this bag of coins to Richard as a way to compensate for this loss of the saint, and allowing him to basically say, hey, how about you convince everyone to say yes to this, and here's some money for your troubles. And Richard blows up. He declares, money? How dare you? And he is livid. And I was here for it. I was here for the drama, especially after it being a very kind of cozy time up into this point. And so Richard says, you better get out of my sight. This is absolutely not okay. And then we are in the process of trying to come to a truce, and the men are supposed to have another meeting, and when Richard doesn't show up, people start to get concerned. They start searching the countryside, and then they find his body with an arrow through his heart. So that's where I've stopped. I know it's a very tense time, but it truly is a third of the way through the book, and there was a moment where I was wondering, am I going to have to come to you all, provide my first update, and say, a crime hasn't occurred yet? I'm not mad at that. I actually think that there is something to say for authors who can pull off a late murder or a late crime, and we're all just kind of twiddling our fingers wondering, when's the body going to show up? What's going on? And it adds to the tension. So I'm pretty impressed that we were able to wait with such a short novel to the 33% mark before this body is discovered. I do feel badly because, you know, a lot of times the dead body is someone we don't like, is someone who is flawed to the point where it sounds really bad, but we kind of are okay with them dying. But Richard seemed like a really good man, and he has a daughter who is now distraught, and there's just a lot of turmoil in this community, and I'm wondering how many eyes are going to be turning on, say, Prior Robert for potentially being the man to kill him. This might be a situation where Brother Cadfael has to clear his name to figure out who actually murdered this man, and I don't even know what's going to end up happening with the saint, and if they're just going to go back to England empty-handed. Yeah, I haven't really had the best of luck with my Battle of the Booktuber books to this point. I have another 4 or 5 books to read, so, you know, it's early days, but this is the first one where I thought I could give this 5 stars. Like, I'm already having a great time. I'm already excited because this is a series I've been meaning to read for quite some time. Ellis Peters is so well loved. Brother Cadfael is so well loved. And I can't wait to continue following the perspective of Cadfael because he seems like a character that we're in good hands with, which is exactly what I want in my mysteries when we are with a detective who's just knows what he's doing and is very likable and understands the community, because I already loved him when I found out that he was Welsh, and that the other community members immediately find him endearing and someone that they can trust, that they can open up to. Another great quality with a detective. So yeah, I'm here for the historical references, the tension between Welsh and English people, because it is a turbulent history between them. And I'm also here for the mystery. So woohoo! Okay, anyways, I will give you all an update the next time that I can. Hopefully I can just devour this book because time is also ticking and I have quite a few more books to read. You obviously don't see it that way, but for me, I'm all like discombobulated. So yeah, I'll let you all know when I get to maybe 2/3 of the way through this book, and hopefully my feelings don't change and I'm still loving it. This morning I reached the 2/3 part of this book, and things are progressing very interestingly. There has been a brief investigation in the murder. Obviously, someone has been accused, and it seems as though he's been framed because the arrow that was in our victim's chest, in Richard's chest, is clearly this one man who is unfortunately an outsider. He's an Englishman who has been kicked out, run out of his home village, and now he's in Wales working for the murder victim. And he was also wooing the daughter. And of course, because we were dealing with a Welsh woman and an English man, no one is approving of this, specifically Richard, because of the cultural expectations of her to marry someone within their village. It's like a status, blah, blah, blah. But of course, these two young people loved each other deeply, and they were working things out. The English character, he was trying to basically slowly but surely convince Richard, and the man was stalwart. He absolutely refused. They fought, and so of course everyone in the village is thinking, well, he must have killed Richard in order to marry his daughter Sianed. And so there's this whole thing going on, but very quickly our detective, Brother Cadfael, is thinking something's not right. The murder scene does not look correct. There are certain suggestions in regards to the way the dew has formed on the body and around the body, the arrow and everything else, like the direction. None of it makes sense as to the events that were kind of playing out as far as like how the murder occurred. And now though, our current suspect has run off and they're all trying to find him. A lot of people are doing it half-heartedly because most of them don't believe he actually did it once you really reason it out, and they just feel badly for him. But the question is then, who killed Richard? There's this whole thing. And now some really weird things have happened regarding one of the brothers who has come along on this journey. I feel as though he's very performative. He keeps suggesting that, Winifred, the saint, is speaking through him. He faints. He's very dramatic. He feels as though he wants to be punished. I know this sounds really, really like suspect and kind of, kinky, but he does seem to get off on being punished and convincing others that, he's repenting all the time. And a lot of the other brothers are like, cool your jets, you're fine, stop doing this, stop making a scene. So there is just a lot of other very like character building, community building aspects to this narrative where you're getting to know all of the characters, and I could see it being fun as you get to know them more with every passing book, that they get up to their shenanigans again as Brother Cadfael is trying to solve a murder. And it's a pretty short narrative, so I'm imagining I will finish it today. You might see me in my cat outfit once more, unless it gets too late and then I just want to get into my pajamas. So that might happen, but I'm still enjoying myself. It's a very easy, comforting historical mystery. And yeah, I'm really pleased that whoever the booktuber is that recommended this to me, I was able to read it for a battle rec because I am having a delightful time. As promised, I am back same day and having finished A Morbid Taste for Bones, meaning not only am I done with my battle recs, but I'm done with the entire competition. This is the last time you're going to be hearing from me until we have our live show, which is kind of wild, especially because from my perspective, I'm halfway through my read books. So that just shows you how chaotic this entire vlogging experience has been, because I'm really not even done yet. I'm halfway done, halfway there. But I am really pleased with how this book ended up wrapping up. I'm not surprised. I didn't expect to hate it unless there were some elements in which the author decided to make things very of the time. I felt as though I had the historical setting. We were definitely in, like medieval England/Wales, and I really appreciated that background. But having been written from a woman in the 21st or 20th century, I should say, I was like, I'm in pretty good hands. I shouldn't be experiencing any type of severe sexism or racism, anything to that effect where I would be like, oh my God, why are we reading this in 2025? So I am very happy about that. I don't think I've mentioned that at any point during this vlog. So that was a breath of fresh air. So I was able to just enjoy the slowness, the calm, tranquil type of historical setting, the nature that is surrounding this small village. village, and the plotting mystery, because we're not distracted by high technology texting and everything like that. And that's one of the elements that I really appreciate when it comes to historical mysteries, but also just golden age mysteries in general. So I definitely am going to be continuing the series. I can't wait to continue with Brother Cadfael as he endeavors on, I don't know, solving more murders. It's kind of wild to think that this monk would be involved in so many murders, but you know what, we just kind of accept it at this point. And I found the ending to be pretty satisfying. I actually think that a lot of loose ends were tied up nicely, and I am, you know, reminding myself that this is why you do have to trust the author sometimes. You've got to trust the process, because just before certain reveals happened, my attention went towards this one character and I was like, wait a second, they are kind of suspicious. And then everything started locking into place. And so while I did solve the mystery, I also was just able to do it before the reveals happened. So this is totally fair play, and I enjoyed it. It was super fun. I'm gonna have to allow myself some time to think about the rating before I actually provide it to you all. So you will hear from me again. I'm going to sit down and provide the reveal for what I'm actually even giving A Marvelous Light, the other book I read during this vlog, and we can kind of sit with how my battle recs are looking, especially in regards to every other book that I've read in this competition. So thank you all so much. I do appreciate you sticking with me, sticking with Battle of the Booktuber. And again, I will see you soon, but the shops are closing soon, and I have at least 2 of them that I've got to visit before sundown. So yeah, I'll see you all in a later date when I tell all. It's true. I am officially done with Battle of the Booktuber. It is kind of wild to think about this journey, especially because I started reading these books in January, as you would, because we had 6 months to plan, and that was just the best way to handle it. So now, recording this in late June, it's kind of wild to think, wow, we're almost done. And when I say almost done, the reason why I'm not saying we're completely done is because, one, we still have the live shows, and we have the reveal of who the masked booktuber is. So there's a lot of excitement to come, so just keep that in mind. But we're at the end of this video, and so it's time for me to reveal my ratings, not only for A Morbid Taste for Bones, which I just finished, but also A Marvelous Light, the first book I picked up for this vlog. So let's go with A Marvelous Light first. This one, I already was nervous about it, right? It ended up surprising me in the beginning and then kind of fell into what I expected. So it was a bit of a roller coaster of a read, and I will probably have to keep that in mind. I don't want to give it too harsh of a rating because there were moments that I appreciated. I did actually root for the coupling, even though I grew tired of them by the end, and just always find the third act breakup to be inorganic. Like, it feels very forced oftentimes in romances for me. And so I don't know, the fact that I also would have DNF'd this, it just, I don't know. I don't think anyone's gonna be surprised that this book didn't vibe with me. I just don't know really where I should sit with my rating. Part of me was like, oh, maybe 3-star range, but I, in the end, didn't like it, and I don't remember what the ending was. I kind of remember the reveal of who the villain, but I didn't really have my mind fully focused and fully present to understand what was going on. I felt as though it was lacking. I also didn't think it was developed very well. So we're gonna go with a 2.75. Yeah, okay. We're gonna go with a 2.75 just because I don't really see myself continuing with the series. I would be hesitant to pick up this author again just because it doesn't really fit in my wheelhouse, and I just wasn't paying attention. I was skimming the end. So that would mean I really don't feel confident ever recommending it. So we're gonna go with a 2.75 for that one. It is what it is, and I'm so sorry. Honestly, I appreciate giving it a chance, especially because there are elements that I like. I like historical, I like fantasy. I do like a mystery plot, subplots. I would prefer them to be a bit stronger. And romances, I'm trying to get more into romance. I'm trying to find my niche. I haven't yet, but it's okay. So thank you so much. I'm so glad that I was able to try A Marvelous Light and try Freya Marsk because I've heard really good things about this author, but it didn't really work out for me. And I'm predicting that this booktuber is Kirsten. I said it a few times throughout the video, but I feel pretty confident that it's Kirsten just because she is the poster child for Freya Marsk. She loves that author to death. So if you also like this author, be sure to check her out because you probably vibe with Kirsten's own recommendations, her own reading taste really, really well. So that's why I'm thinking it's probably Kirsten, but it also might be too obvious. So, you know, I'll accept if I'm wrong on that front. Now for A Morbid Taste for Bones. Obviously, this was far more in my wheelhouse. The fact that it's historical mystery, and yes, there was some hesitance towards it being so far back in history, but I found it delightful. I think this was a really solid, safe recommendation, to be completely honest, because of how comforting it was. I enjoyed being with Brother Cadfael. I liked enjoying the atmosphere of being in the countryside of Wales, the discussions about the tension between English people, Welsh people, and just the really turbulent history that is within those countries. So I ate it up, and the mystery was really enjoyable. Predictable in the end. I felt as though as soon as I knew who I was looking at, I was like, this is clearly the person. But I don't mind that. It's fair play. It shows that people can actually predict who ends up being the killer and why, and I definitely want to continue the series. That is one that I do want to own as well. I ended up having to borrow it from the library as an ebook because I didn't have it, and I was like, I'm gonna buy this. I'm definitely gonna buy it, and I'm gonna continue the Brother Cadfael series because it was just so fun, so delightful, and yeah, really comforting, which we aren't surprised by because it's a historical mystery, and that is like my favorite type of mystery at this point. So with that one, obviously I'm gonna give a pretty high rating. You would think I'm probably going to give a pretty high rating. And the rating I'm going to sit on is a 4-star. I'm doing it a 4.0 just because it didn't wow me, but I did find it so comforting and so lovely. So I think a solid 4 stars goes to this book. And oh gosh, thank you so much to this Booktuber, because like I said, it was long overdue. I should have read Ellis Peters' books way long ago, especially this series, the Brother Cadfael series, but I was afraid. I was afraid that it was just too well loved. Am I going to be the person who hates it? And I wasn't. So yeah, thank you so much for finally giving me the motivation to do that. And I think that this is rainy. The reason why I think this is rainy is because the other options scream other people. Some of this is process of elimination. I think Freya Marsk is Kirsten, so boom, already had that locked in. Half a Soul, it's historical fantasy. I loved Small Miracles by Olivia Atwater, so I could see someone doing some digging, like in my Goodreads or Storygraph, seeing it in some of my videos. It was also a book that I needed to read by the end of the year. I wanted to, just because I had the goal of reading all of the books I bought in 2024, and I also ended up hearing from Danni that whoever recommended me Half a Soul, they responded saying to tell me that I should have updated my Goodreads. And so they were mad, which is understandable. But the thing is we literally, I was sick and I was like, I need a book. So I picked it up, and then 24 hours later, we finally got the last person to submit their recommendations. So if you're gonna blame someone, blame whoever the last person was to submit their recommendations. I can't remember who it was. So yeah, anywho, I could see that being Sam. I could see Half a Soul being Sam, mainly because she's quite active on Goodreads and all of that. So I have Sam for Half a Soul. I think Victoria would go a little bit more mainstream, and she just doesn't read mystery, so I don't really know where she would land. I couldn't see her finding the Brother Cadfael series, so I'm going to give her We Three Queens, even though that's also a great option. Like I said, this is a historical mystery series. It's the Her Royal Spiness series, and I have been meaning to return to it. It's just, unfortunately, I had already read one book in that series, but yeah, if only I would have picked that up. But I decided to play fair. I decided to divulge that I have read a book in that series before. And so Brother Cadfael, Rainy, I could see her doing some Googling. She and I were really determined to like dig deep for each other's recommendations. And so I could see her not really stumbling upon it, because it's a really well-loved, well-known series within the mystery community. So Rainy, if this is you, whoever it is, pat yourself on the back. But I think it's Rainy. So yeah, there we are. And with that, we are going to wrap up this vlog. Thank you so much for getting to the end, for hopefully watching the last 5 weeks of videos, not only on my channel, but on all of the other competitors' channels as well. Hopefully you're tallying at home, making your own guesses. Let me know if you think my guesses are sound. Do you think that A Marvelous Light came from Kirsten and that A Morbid Taste for Bones came from Rainy? Or do you think I'm completely off the mark? Let me know in the comments. And if you're not feeling chatty, how about Are there bone emojis? Give me some bone emojis in honor of a morbid taste for bones, because I know that we're not all feeling chatty at the same time. So feel free to just let me know that you were here. I would really appreciate it. Thank you to my mayor guests. Thank you to Danny Dabbles for hosting this competition. And I do hope to see you all at the live show on the 9th of August. That's when we're going to have the masked booktuber revealed, a secret booktuber who we had to recommend additional books to, and they might be the one to decide it all. Who knows? So be sure to mark your calendars, and I will see you all then, and see you in my next video. Bye, friends!